I think everything is alright. It took me so long, sorry. Welcome everyone to Blender today. If you are following this show for a while now, you probably realized that last week we skipped the episode, and this week I'm in a completely different place. There is a window outside. You can even see my reflection. Sorry about that. We are still setting up everything. But yes, lots has happened. We only skipped 1 week because I just didn't have internet. The Blender Institute moved since then. We moved to a new building. We're working in a different place now. It's in Amsterdam North. It's much bigger, and I think it's gonna grow into a much nicer place than the one we have right now, than we used to have. We don't have it anymore, actually. I've been working there for already 1 week in the code quest that we're going to talk about now in a bit. But basically, yeah, with that moving, I also moved my own apartment where I was in another part of Amsterdam. I'm also moved, so that's why I had to set up everything. I tried to get internet right on time for Monday last week, but they couldn't. So now this guy, the guy plugged the internet this afternoon, so I had to set up everything really fast. But so much to talk about today. An open movie was released. Code Quest is going on. Things are happening in Blender code. We're going to see that, but it's crazy time. So first things first. Yeah, I had the tweet that this is me building my place last week instead of making the live stream. I was trying to build it from pieces, and then this is more or less how it looks right now. This is where I am right now with the pictures in the background. But I plan to put some artwork in the walls and try to make it a bit more cozy, because right now I can hear, I don't know if you hear it, but you can hear myself like the echo. So echo, no, hero. Yes, and I got better internet than where I used to have. Hero, yes. Have you seen it or not? If you haven't, then I urge you to go and see it. I'm just gonna mention that it's amazing, blah blah blah, and I'm not gonna spoil it. It's also it's like a trailer. It tells a story, but it's more like a showcase. It's not like an open movie in the sense of I don't know, Sintel or like those long 15-minute movies with a story and everything. Now this is a bit more, it's a showcase basically of what Blender can do. Blender Grease Pencil. Remember, what you see here is made with Blender Grease Pencil, the Grease Pencil branch that is based on Blender 2.8 that is going to be released soonish. Yes? Not released, but merged into Blender 2.8. I'm gonna quickly check on the comments. Am I doing? Yeah, there is room echo. Sorry about that. Okay, now everything is all right. Cool. Okay, continue. Hero. So yes, what you see here is made completely in Blender 2.8 Grease Pencil branch. So Grease 2.8 is broken in many levels, but somehow these people, Daniel Martinez Lara and his team, managed to make an open movie. So what you see here is a showcase. All the files are going to be available on Blender Cloud, so you can play with it, and also there will be builds available, so you can download that specific version of Grease Pencil, and you can also download the files and play with them. But yeah, massive props to the team. It looks amazing. It's you have to watch it with sound. I don't want to bother you right now. The surprise of watching this awesome short movie, and at the end there is, I like the ending because it showcases not the ending as in the spoiler, but the credits ending. It shows parts of the film, and then it shows features of the Grease Pencil branch in Blender 2.8. So pretty excited about that. It's also a different format, right? Instead of making a movie and just trying to tell a story and deal with it forever, it's more of a showcase. It's like, okay, this is what Blender can do, and it's more obvious. It's like, okay, this is the thing that can be done. I also got credits for additional graphics, so I didn't do graphics for the film itself, just in general for PR and stuff. But yes, thank you, Blender Cloud subscribers. You are what makes this possible. So if you're a subscriber, you own this movie, and it's very common, so everybody owns it. It's been released a couple hours ago, and less actually, an hour ago or so, and now it has 3.5k views. So start sharing it. Let's make the world see what Blender 2.8 and Grease Pencil can do. Next, the code quest. Yes, it's all about the code quest now, at least for on my side, because I was working in the Blender Institute together with the Spring team, and well, everybody we were there until the code quest started last week. Monday was the first day of the code quest. 13 people, developers, designers, everybody in the new building of the Blender Institute, well, Blender Studio. We decided to call it Blender, not Studio, not even Blender Studio. So basically, we had this identity problem that some things are Blender Institute, some things are Blender Foundation, Blender Animation Studio. So now it's more clear, we just Blender Studio, because we do everything, right? We sometimes code, sometimes movies, sometimes training. Yes, there will be training coming for the new in the new building. There is a part that is gonna be dedicated to that. So pretty awesome. If you haven't seen it, check out the code.blender.org post where I link to this. I got it. It's done getting the keys. Awesome. And the whole team, I wasn't there. I was in London that weekend. I missed the picture, but you can see them setting up, and now we're working there. And the way I'm logging this, I'm making like showing the progress that is going on is with video logs, which is another way of calling it a vlog though. By the way, cheers. The only it's a Heineken, I can't lie. It's I couldn't get anything better because everything else wasn't cold enough, and I don't have a fridge yet. I just moved. Anyway, it's off topic. Continue. Video logs. This is a new format that I'm trying to present the work done in the code quest. It's basically it's like a it's like a blog. It starts like a blog. I'm trying to do a couple per week at least, or maybe more. But basically, yeah, it's just walk around with the camera for a little bit, and then I just show everything from my point of view, from the point of view that someone maybe is not a developer, but it's just showing it from outside. So I just show the building a little bit. Then I show that in this place, this is under construction. All the part in below is under construction, and we are working up there. The whole team is there, 13 people. So the rest of the well, here there is a bit more videos, but the rest of this new format that I'm trying is basically voiceover. So I speak over the videos, and it's nicer to start because then you don't have to go to the developers and interrupt them while they're working. I try to, well, the first one I was going to them and bothering them, but I'm just there like a third person, like with the camera, and try to make it feel as natural as possible. So that's why I chose to do voiceovers, and a lot of people are liking this content, so I'm pretty happy about it. At first it's just about setting up and everything, and the second one that I released on Saturday, it's also starts like a vlog, but then it quickly starts showing the work done by the developers and the progress, the meetings, what is the outcome of the meetings, which is pretty awesome. Spoiler alert, it's awesome. The video explains a little bit how everything was split. So the meetings were split into areas, through bigger topics. So the code quest is going to cover workflow. Of course, workflow covers all that is related to workspaces. Like how do you work with the workspaces, with a new tab system where you have only the UI, the interface is like custom for your task. If you're modeling, rendering, shading, lighting, each one will have its own workspace. They also could have its own key maps, or it could have its own add-ons. So it's all part of a workflow. Then there is data, which basically means the asset manager and the static overrides, which in other words is like the proxy. The old proxy system in Blender, that where you link up a character, for example, and you make a proxy of the armature to animate. Well, that is being replaced in Blender 2.8 with a new override system. So basically you have all your group there, like the objects there like locally, but not locally really, because all the data is linked. But it's better to handle this this amount of data. You can have two characters, for example, with the same character but twice, but something you cannot do in Blender 2.7. So the same character but twice with different actions, different animations, and you can even add overrides. So you can add an override for the same character but one with red hair and one with black hair, something like that. Just that level of overrides. You can change pretty much everything, how it looks a character, and in the other things, the action. So before I continue, I forgot to mention that in this Blender Today, we try to first talk about the topics of the week, and then at the end of this episode, we are going to go through the questions, especially the ones that are highlighted in orange in the chat. You will see if you do @Blender Today on the @me @Blender Today, then it's easier for me to read them when we are when I'm scrolling through all the questions. So yeah, others is basically other topics that don't fit any category. It was for example, code style, or the removal of certain features in Blender 2.8, all sorts of things. Grease pencil was also others, because even though it's been tackled by another developer, Antonio Vasquez, it's also related to to Joshua, which is there. Allegorith is the original developer of Grease pencil, and also his work is more involved with the animation system. All right, so OpenGL, that's Eevee mainly. Workbench engine too. The Workbench engine we are going to talk about in a bit. Dependency graph, yes. Modifiers to work. That is that when you see dependency graph, well, it's also related to the modifiers to work and the new operators and all the things that use the very new dependency graph system. Tools, the tool system, the way to have an active tool and being able to replace the left click to set the 3D cursor. You can now set it to any tool you want, well, not any, but many tools. For example, you could use left click and drag for doing a border select, for repeating an action that you already did in the past. So you can assign that left click instead of always being set the 3D cursor, which some people are not very fond of. They can replace it. Now it can be replaced with an active tool. So this active tool concept is being tested in Blender 2.8 right now, and it's part of the code quest. So you will see more about it soon. Campbell and William are working on it. Campbell is a developer and William is a designer. Workbench engine, yes, Workbench. What is the Workbench engine? Basically, well, I'm gonna make a video on in the Blender developers channel, but in a nutshell, the Workbench engine is the replacement of the solid mode. For example, in Blender 2.7, solid view. Not only that, it's also the replacement for the sculpt mode, the replacement for anything, basically everything where you are working, like manipulators and what do you see in the screen, or I don't know, even motion pads that show up when you're animating, for example. That is part of the Workbench. It's a mix between the draw modes, such as solid or wireframe. Yes, that's part of the Workbench engine. The grid, everything that is there is like practical to work. That's part of the Workbench engine. Graphic design layout, that's a topic that we are working with William. Together we are like the UI part of the team, so we are trying to see if we can get some fixes that are due to Blender since a while. Some of them are just superficials, maybe just updating the theme or just fixing some of the widgets, changing some of them, but other things are a bit more low level. For example, a new grid system for the buttons, so the buttons don't appear all misaligned but actually aligned to a grid. So we will make it look a bit more organized. Now, right now, sometimes you have a button and then you have halfway that button, there is another button in the other row, in the other column next to it, and it's just hard to follow. So yes, that, for example, that's one of the things. And cache data streaming is mainly Alembic. So Alembic, import, export, physics, how do you work with cache data, how do you stream it into your scene. And yeah, there will be mockups soon, but this is an introduction video basically where I just ask everyone, hey, well, who are you and what's your role in the code quest, and I go through all of them except Francesco. He's part of the code quest, but he's still at the old Blender Institute with the Spring team. They're still working on the movie, but they're in the other building. They are coming here in less than a month, or here in the building, in the new Blender studio. I don't know how to call them, Blender Studio, Blender Institute. They're at the Blender Institute and they're coming to the Blender Studio in mid-May, but less than that. So yes, a lot of people were very happy to see a face behind the name. So for example, everybody knows Eevee, everybody loves Eevee, but did you know Clement, for example? He is the developer that made Eevee basically, and is all involved with the OpenGL part of Blender. The live Felinto, we had it on a live stream in the Blender developers channel, and I'm going to get him to try to get him for another live stream that could happen Friday, maybe at the end of this week. We still have to set the time, but subscribe to the Blender developers channel, and then you will be updated with the event. You're gonna get the notification for the event. Joshua Long, yes, Aligorith is here. Aligorith came all the way from New Zealand to work in the code quest. So nice to finally meet him in person. We've been talking online for years. So yeah, he worked in animation system, the Animato. He also made Grease Pencil, the first version of the Grease Pencil, the first dependency graph. He also brought it. So yes, it's awesome to have him on board. Julian, UI design. Well, actually, you can just watch the video. It's Sivren. Sivren is actually working at the Blender he was working. He is working at the Blender Institute. He lives here in Amsterdam. He works together. He's part of the team, the permanent team here. And Willem working on UI, and this is some idiot, I don't know. Anton Rosenthal, yes, Sergey, so awesome. So yes, I hope you like this format of Code Quest log. Everybody so far, I think they are pretty positive about it. The comments have been amazing. And the fact that there is only one dislike after 500, that also says a lot. So thank you very much. Quickly check the questions in case I'm missing anything. Okay. What's the best source to follow for Blender news? Blender Today. Blender.today. It's actually a URL. It's a community where people, whoops, somebody shared here many times. I'm gonna vote this one. I need to log in. Yes, this is Blender Today, is where to share news. There is also, of course, Blender Nation, and there is also Reddit, for example. There is also code.blender.org, or you can also just follow. If for the news, yeah, I would follow Blender Today on Twitter. If you have Twitter, there is always cool stuff being retweeted by Blender Today. It has like it follows like a number of hashtags and gets new jobs, for example, and all kinds of things. So that's it. Am I done with that, with the code quest? Yes. Let's continue. First, Blender 2.8 is not only about adding things. There is already a task about the removal of the Blender game engine for Blender 2.8. Okay, I zoom in too much. Yes, it's being worked on a branch. It will be, I think it's on a branch, and it will be removed from Blender 2.8, not from Master. Master will still have it. The current Blender 279 plus some fixes still has it, so it will be removed from Blender 2.8 to make things easier for the developers, to make some room for improvements that can happen in the new interaction mode. Not improvements, but also implementation. It has to be implemented yet. But yes, some things have to go in order to have better things. Of course, nobody's taking Blender 279 out of your hands, and no one is taking the Blender game engine code out of anybody's hands. So there is already work in, like, for example, BGE. Oops, BGE. It's a fork of the Blender game engine, and they're doing an amazing job. They're even making it work with Eevee. So it really has a life on its own, and maybe in the future it can be ported back to Blender 2.8. Who knows? But for the time being, the idea is to have in Blender like an interaction mode. So it's basically the same without the much of that logic and everything, but the idea that you can interact with you can add actions, and you can animate, and you can make it, you can add physics, and you can basically have an interactive mode within Blender. So that way, if there is improvements in the viewport, then the interaction mode will have it, and every area gets benefits by working together. Right now, if you implement something in Blender, then the game engine doesn't get it. You have to like make it work for the game engine. So the code of the game engine have been dead for a while, so it's not killing it if it's already dead. All right, and this is coming from someone that worked in the one and only open game project, Joe Frankie. I have deep feelings for the game engine, and that's the reason why I started using Blender. But right now, nowadays, making some room for this new mode in Blender where you can be more interactive. You can help you making animations or simulations or everything. And with the amount of game engines that are out there right now, such as there's Godot, well, there's Unity, is not open source, but there's Armory also, Armory 3D. There are options nowadays, so it's not like you're left alone. And the same might happen with the Blender internal. Okay, enough. But no, Blender internal should have at least the features from that. I agree completely. Blender Eevee should have at least the same features set as Blender internal in order for the internal to go. Okay, I think I explained all that I wanted to explain. We can go in some of the questions here. So let's go up. Let's put a more, there you go. Oh, let's put here in the background while I look at the questions. All right, let's go up. Oh, Jeroen was there. Jeroen is one of the developers. He's working on the Workbench engine. The CodeQuest blocks are really cool. I like the voiceover format. Only fit one if you can use some sort of camera stabilizer. In which video though? Because the first video I used a camera that doesn't have any kind of stabilization, so it's very shaky. But in the second video I use another camera, my own camera, that has stabilization, so I think they're much more stable overall. Of course, some of the movement is my fault because I just moved too much. I'm still getting used to this vlogging system. I'm used to doing this, just sitting camera and action. So I'm getting used to it. It's partially my fault. The bones and shape keys don't work in 2.8. No, that's part of the work that will be done by the CodeQuest this week. On Monday, actually today, Monday, this morning, we had the kickoff. So every Monday we start the week by, let's leave a nice frame there, smiles, there you go. Open movies should smile more, there you go, a smile. So today, this morning, we had the kickoff. We got together in the meeting room, also known as the kitchen, and we just talked about what each one of us is going to do during the week. The overall plan hasn't changed. So last week on Friday, the idea was for this week to start to work for real. Last week was mainly, Monday was setting up, and then during the week was about getting the meetings over the meetings in order to define exactly what is the CodeQuest going to tackle and what is better to just do it at home. Because sometimes most of the developers are working remotely. They're at home somewhere in the planet Earth and they communicate via IRC, or they just use mailing lists or websites dedicated only for the development of Blender. This works, but it's just too slow. That's why the CodeQuest happens. It's the gathering of all these developers in one place here in Amsterdam for 3 months in order to do stuff. The first week was dedicated mainly to meetings. The second week, like what started today, already has stuff planned. Among them are merges. So one of the merges that could happen is the top bar, the one with the top bar of the workspaces. So then you have the tabs in the front, in the top. That could be one merge that will happen this week with Blender 2.8. Then the multi-object editing might happen soon as well. to be merged in Blender 2.8. The grease pencil, we have to wait a little. I think it's not going to be immediate right now, but it could happen right now, as soon as possible, because the hero movie is done, it's over, so there is no more fear of breaking grease pencil in order to make it work with Blender 2.8 with the rest of Blender 2.8. So there is no more fear. Basically now it can happen, luckily. Then what else? There is so much going on. There is the modifiers and operators. Basically it's a lot of work. Every single modifier has to be ported over to Blender 2.8. If you're old enough to remember the 2.4 era of Blender, 2.49, well, from 2.49 to 2.5, every single operator, every tool, every button in Blender had to be rewritten, had to be ported over to the Blender 2.5 way of using tools. Now is something similar is happening, that the system is changing, the dependency graph is changing, so the modifier system has to be ported over, and also operators have to be ported. Some of the operators have to be ported over, so there will be, yes, thousands. And that's a lot of work. It will happen gradually. It's not only happen by one person. The idea is that more people are involved, but yes, it just takes time. But that's what the code quest is for, right? To get a lot of work done in a short amount of period. A lot of work done in a short period of time. All right. What else? Let's see if I forget anything. There will be mockups. Yes, the draw modes will. So basically, the Workbench needs a lot of mockups in order to have an idea of how the viewport is going to look, in order for developers to implement. Basically, if you are modeling what do you see? If you are in edit mode, okay, you see the vertices. How's the manipulators? Do you see wireframes or not? Do we have a wireframe mode? Yes, but how is it? Is it the same wireframe mode we have now, which is a bit useless sometimes, because you see the mesh in front and you see the mesh in the back, so everything is black, you can't see much. To implement some kind of depth, how does it work? Then sculpt, how does it look? Well, weight painting and everything. Basically, there is so much work to do, and that will be done in mockups. The Workbench engine is a mix between draw modes and overlays. So an overlay is motion paths, for example, or something in X-ray, or the tools that you're using, the manipulators, anything, basically, the widgets. Okay, next question. What is the use of timeline window in Blender? Dopesheet, much more useful window. Can anyone gonna update it? Yes, the point of the timeline window is something to be it has many things. It's not so useless. Let's see how so the timeline right now, it has a few options here, but I know it could be much more useful, especially if you could like move the keys here, like move them around. That would be very useful. But basically what I use the timeline for is to quickly add and rename markers. I use it also to see the caches. When you have something cached, like physics, it will show here in the bottom. It will have like a little thin line. I also use it for setting some of these options. And we were talking with William, and we have already some ideas in order to improve the timeline, especially visually. Just by arranging some of the options, that will be already a lot. It will help a lot. For example, the sync mode, you don't change it that often to have it there. For example, you could make room for other options. Then the record button is somewhere there, but if it was closer to the play buttons, it will remind of the old tape player where you have record close to it. For example, those little things. Another thing, for example, is that when you're in preview mode, so you have your start frame 1 to 50, and sometimes you work in a small portion of your animation, so you set the preview to be like a walk cycle. So then when you play animation, you can play it, and then when you release the preview, it's over. But the thing is that once you are in the preview mode, you can't see which ones were your start end frame. So fixing those little things, just maybe another overlay or stripes, or just those things already are much more, make it much more better. And of course, the moving and the editing of the keyframes from here would be nice as well. Let's see. Do you have any mods in the chat? You should, to keep the chat clean. I have some mods, but I think they're tired. But who is working what? I didn't see. Someone was saying bad stuff. So what's the best source of Blender news? I already said. Is Animation 2020 more than just a name right now? The name is a big part of it, and that's a lot already. So Animation 2020 is just, no, it's just the name so far. Just maybe in Tom's mind it's a bit something more than that, and ways to, it's a due upgrade to the animation system in Blender. That. Many other areas in Blender, such as, I don't know, modeling or sculpting, or they all had upgrades, but the animation system actually in Blender hasn't changed much since a long time. So it's due for a change. If only Community Blender had English text. What do you mean? Blender.community is the website that has all the communities. Blender.community is like the umbrella of all the communities. In there is Blender Hoy, which is in Spanish, Blender Oche, which is in Portuguese, but Blender Today, right click select, and Blender NPR, both three are in English. So if you're in Blender Today and you see something in Spanish, you can complain. You can say, and then it will be moved over or something. But basically, this is a community of communities. And yes, to me, it says it's in Spanish because I have my browser set in Spanish. So that's why you see enviar enlace and you don't see submit link or send link. But yes, it is actually in English. I just have my browser in Spanish. Hola, Vita. Armory, yeah, exactly. That's what I mentioned. The Webbies. Yes. Where can I read about the Webbies? In the cloud? I can read about Hero. No, I can't read about that. Webbies. Where do I read it? Webby Awards. The Open Movie Project Agent 327 Operation Barbershop has been nominated for the Webby Awards. Yes. Winners. No, not winners. Nominees. I had the link. I think I tweeted about it. Yes, I tweeted about it. So it's actually easier to just go to my Twitter. Shameless plug. And then here, the Webby Awards. Animation. So in the Webby Awards website, there you can vote for your favorite film. If it happens to be Agent 327 Operation Barbershop, it will be awesome for Blender because it will give it more, it will make it much more more visibility, right? So there you go. If you're in the chat now, you should get the link to vote if you feel like voting. Vote for whatever you feel like, but it would really help Blender if you do. Let's continue the questions. Blender today. I think that you should keep the Blender internal. This is the only option for us to make animations. Cycles takes too long. Well, but that's why you have Eevee. Eevee will take less time than the Blender internal. Eevee is supposed to be real time, so yes. If you add all the details and more everything, it might take maybe a few seconds per frame, but still much faster than anything Blender internal can do. And I love Blender internal. I made many films about it. The first Caminandes is in Blender internal, and that first Caminandes has the best fur. That character Koro has the best fur of any of the other films, I think, in my opinion. And not because I made it, I might be biased, but I don't know, I like how fluffy it looks, and I couldn't get that with cycles. It will just take too long, because the moment you make transparent strands in cycles, then it just takes forever. But yeah, that's ray tracing. Would you mind sharing your Linux hardware build specification and OS with us? No, not at all, of course. If I search for about, yes, you will see that I'm using Ubuntu 17.10 so far. Is the latest, more stable Ubuntu, and is Ubuntu GNOME, the GNOME, the desktop environment. So Ubuntu GNOME, this one. And actually in the latest one that will come out, not yet, Ubuntu switched officially to GNOME. So yes, it has support, and the system is an Intel Core i7 7700, yes, HQ 2.8, 8 cores, not 8 cores, 8 threads, with a GTX 1050. Let's see, they continue. And 16 gigs of RAM. It's a laptop, it's a Dell XPS. It's a Dell XPS 9650, I think. Yes, this is a laptop that I'm using. Let's see, I have a game character project I could share for stress testing Eevee at its best. Please, do it. There is already in blender.org, in the 2.8 page, which you can see, not in the code quest. How can I go to, okay, let's just go through the website. In the blender.org/2.8, you can go to try it yourself, and then you can download many files for testing, for stress testing Eevee. If you have files that you want to share and you're allowed to share them, they have to be at least CC BY, Creative Commons. They can also be CC BY, share alike, if you want to keep them as is when people are, when you're sharing them. Just get in touch, maybe we can add them to this gallery. To be fair, Blender Game Engine is barely usable for prototyping, much less a full game. Yeah. Don't say goodbye to Blender internal render until Cycles can render smoke as fast, or Eevee can render smoke as well. Well, Eevee can render smoke, not as nice as Blender internal though. That I will give it to you, yes. Why don't they just modernize Blender render and keep it? Well, because Blender render, the Blender internal it's old. It's been proven to work, yes, but it touches, it's like so many areas of Blender. It's spread all over Blender that sometimes you want to upgrade, you want to introduce a new feature, and then you have to think of all the corner cases and all the, like, it stops developers from adding new features into the Blender internal render engine because of this, because of being so all over the place. And it's not, it's just it's aging basically. Many things can be done nowadays in the GPU, for example, or it can be well, you can use cycles. And actually, if you use cycles, remove all the bounces, put it to 0, you get basically Blender internal. But Blender cycles uses the GPU, and it has much better multi-threading, and it's just, you can make cycles render as fast as Blender internal. Period. No, okay. No, but someone will come and will say no, because if you make fire, if you make, just remove everything from cycles, remove bounces, lower the samples and everything, and you can get it close to it. Timeline and dope sheet should be combined into one window. No, the dope sheet has way too many things right now. It's good to have one timeline that just has the time and just is for going through around and in animation, not having the keyframes all the time, not worrying about changing stuff, not having the channels. Dope sheet has the channels on the side. That's a lot. I think it shouldn't be. It's okay that there are two different editors. Yeah, but the settings and login, etc. stuff is in Spanish, I think. It's in Spanish for me too, even though my browser is definitely in English. No way. Oh, that I didn't know. The Blender.community is in Spanish for a lot of people? Then that's a bug. If that's the case, if your computer system is set to English and your browser is set to English, then it should... That's so strange. Language. If I set my English, if I set English as first language and I remove Spanish, then yeah, then I refresh Blender.community and then it shows in English. And then I add Spanish. And then I move to the top and then I refresh and then it shows in Spanish. It was in English and it was showing in Spanish. So it is working. You must have Spanish somewhere else. Otherwise it's a bug. It can always be a bug, yes. Okay, let's continue and then we can start wrapping up this show. Will we still have that for Eevee? Internal for hair? Yes, yeah. Fur will be... It will be geometry basically, it will be a bit slower, but yes. Any news on rigging? No, not that I know. When Hero is coming out? It already came out. Go watch it in the Blender channel, youtube.com/Blender Foundation. If you haven't seen it yet, I will, well, you can just Google it. It's called Hero Blender Grease Pencil Showcase. Will we be able to delay an animation across an array? Currently, if you add an array, start and end their animations at the same time. Yes, if you apply overrides, yes, 2.8, it's all about overrides, so it will be possible. A bit of a joke question, but not really. Are there plans on allowing modeling while in interactive mode? I think Minecraft, I'm gonna read here. I think Minecraft Modeling mode could be useful for making case. Modeling while interactive. Well, yeah, of course. You can actually model while sculpting. So yes, I think it will be possible. It appears in English to me. Thank you, was named GG. English, English, English. Cool. Thank you guys for testing Blender community. Do you know if there is anything being done to bevel modifier tool? It gets buggy to core when you offset profile to 1. Are you using the latest? Because there was a fix regarding bevel modifier. So in order to know if you're using the latest, go to blender.org, download latest experimental builds, and get for your operating system, get the official, or the Blender 2.8 if you want, but actually just check the official and then test the bevel modifier tool. The official one at this moment is basically Blender 2.79 with a lot more new stuff. It's newer than 279B, it's newer than everything, but it's still 2.7. It has many new features. So some of them might be a bit unstable, but it's fairly stable actually. It's being used in Spring OpenMovie, so it's fairly yeah, it's good for, I would consider it good for production, but don't quote me on that if something breaks. If it doesn't, if it's not fixed, then you should be, you feel free to go and report it. I made a commercial in Blender Cycles. How can I admit it to the show reel? To the show reel. Well, we didn't make a call yet. There was a call for the Blender show reel in blender.org. But no, the call for this year's reel is not out yet. Okay, and last question. Is there plans for unwrapping faster algorithm, AMD, Nvidia CPU rendering simultaneously? Well, you can mix anything when you're rendering. You can, no for the unwrapping faster algorithm. I know last year's Blender conference there was a presentation about that, but I haven't seen it's even implemented, unfortunately. And regarding AMD Nvidia CPU rendering, yes, you can just go to the user preferences and start enabling the. I think I don't compile with CUDA, so I won't see it. I should download Blender. Actually, I should download the version because I don't have it. I compile without it just to compile faster. But if you download Blender like this one from the buildbot, from builder.blender.org, you should be able to select multiple sources as your computing devices. What's the new compiler and what's the difference to the regular? It's basically the new one, the newer one. The old one is gonna be deprecated and the new one is just being tested at the moment, but it should be better basically. I don't know the details because I don't use Windows. I use Linux only. So that closes, that is the last question, and I think it's about to leave. I still have okay, let's put something a bit more, there you go, dark, so you can see me there. So what a weird doing this for skipping 1 week, and now I'm doing it here. This place is a bit empty. We're gonna make it a bit we're gonna make it better. I'm gonna put some nice prints here on the wall, and I want to do something with the lighting. I want to get a maybe a curtain there for when I'm shooting now at night. If you watch this from the beginning, it was daylight, and now it's dark because it's 10 p.m. here in Amsterdam. So that's why yes, it's getting dark. But I plan to make it better. I actually have I don't want to show yet, but actually in the pictures that I was showing, I have stuff to hang, stuff to get a chroma, so maybe I can do other kind of content that way. There are big plans for this. Actually, I have now, this place is as big as my old apartment, but it's only for Blender today. For making videos and getting in touch with the community and everything. So yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about it, about this. That's it, I think. Let me know if I miss anything. Please, let's meet it again next week. And if you're watching until the end, here's a question for you. What is the topic that gets you most excited about the Code Quest in general? You've seen the videos. If you don't know exactly what the Code Quest goes about, you can go to the code.blender.org website, and you can check on the kickoff just to read a bit more about what's going on, and there you can find the 2 video logs that I did. This week there will be more because there's a lot going on, so stay tuned. And yes, tell me in the comments, what is that gets you most excited about the Blender 2.8 Code Quest? All right, that's it for now, and let's meet again next week, same time, yes. And because I haven't done it in a while now, I will leave with the with the what we are used to. So here it comes. I hope you can hear it. It's Gilles theme, Street Fighter. All right, that's it for this week. I'll see you again next week, again, same time, same place, same everything. Let's get back to normal. Let's get back to do stuff. Let's create. Yes, see you around, and ciao.